If anybody wants to, they can turn. Woo! There you go. That's good. All right, we go to chapter 4, and I'm going to read pretty much a lot of this right here in Exodus. Okay. Chapter 4. Verse 1 through 5. Chapter 3, I take that back. I apologize for that. Now it says, is that too loud? Okay. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses. And he said, Here I am. He said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land unto a good land, and a large unto a land, flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, that I have sent thee when thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt. Ye shall serve God upon this mountain. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? Now to me, just that far, we got a lot more to read.
Check your plane, make sure you put the body package on.
All right, got, whoops, okay. It's on now. Okay, but what I, this is, dying, and then being risen again. And it just amazes me how the people back then actually talked straight to God, but were still afraid when he seen what God could do. Now God said unto Moses, I am that I am. He said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land of flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come thou and the elders of Israel unto the king of Egypt. And ye shall say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath met with us, and now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof, and after that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall come to pass, that when ye go, ye shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor, and of her that sojourneth in her house jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment, and ye shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians. Now here it goes again with Moses. And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thine hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from it before it. And the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thine hand, and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom. When he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, Put thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand in the bosom again, and plucked it out the bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. And here we go again. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent enough heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. I mean, this is me. If God would come here right now, if God would come here right now, walk through that door and say, and I knew it was God, and he says, Mark, you're going to do this, do that, I have no problem. I mean, but these guys hear his voice, they're talking to him, but they still have a problem, in their self. I think they've got no confidence in their self, is what it amounts to, not realizing that God's going to give them the confidence to do what he asks. So it goes on. Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Hath not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. He still didn't have the confidence. After all this, seeing the burning bush, the angel, the talking to him of God. So what did he finally do? He actually angered God, but not in the way of, it would be like a father to a child, I guess. You didn't do what I told you. Now we're going to have to do this, So he says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aaron on the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well, and also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee, and when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth, with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. Now, even though, I look at it this way, even though Aaron's going to do the speaking for Moses is the one telling him what the Lord's telling him to do. So why, if he could, I always couldn't figure out if he could tell Aaron what to do, why he couldn't. I don't think he had I don't know how you say it, the real down faith that he could handle it, but he felt like his brother could do it better. So on that there, it was just like, I wanted to read a little part out of Jonah. And it was when Jonah was afraid when God come and talked to him to go talk to him in Nineveh. But he was afraid of the people at Nineveh. He was afraid of him. And he thought that he should send him someplace else. So he went and got on a ship. Everybody knows the story. The waters were turning bad. The people went down in the belly of the ship and said, what did you do to your God to make him treat us this way and toss the ship here and fro, you know? And he said, well, what I've done is something terrible, so throw me over. Well, they didn't want to throw him over. They really didn't want to throw him over. They weren't killers, you know what I mean? So anyhow, he finally got him talked into throwing him over, and then he was swallowed by a fish, which everybody knows. And then he prayed in the belly of the fish for 3 days, and God spit him out. And he went and did what God wanted him to do, where if he'd have done it in the first place, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. But he finally went, and when he did it, he went and talked to the people in Nineveh, and they listened to him. Because God already told him he was going to be listened to, you know. So all that said, short and sweet, there were some people who heard my story and some people haven't. There's my testimony. I've never traveled a day in my life when I was younger because I was afraid to go out of Indiana. The farthest I ever went was Kentucky and a little bit in St. Louis, Missouri. That's the farthest I ever went. So when I was getting laid off so much and I knew I needed to find a job somewhere, I actually talked with Debbie and I said, I'm going to go down to South Carolina, North Carolina, and this was when Aaron was in school and stuff, and I said, I'm going to drive and I'm going to look for a job. Well, I knew that they'd built a new plant for Cummins engine down there, so I thought I'd get down there. And I took off, and all I had was a CB. And I'd never been on the road by myself at all. I mean, anywhere further than, like I said, Kentucky. And here I'm going all the way down to North Carolina, South Carolina. I did that trip, and then when I got there and got halfway back, I called my wife from the motel one night, and she said, would you like to go to work in Ohio? My uncles can get you a job if you want to come to work in Ohio. So I turned around and I said, yeah. So we came here and I did the standing at the fairgrounds and I got a job with General Motors. And I worked there. We lived here for about 10 years. We moved. I mean, we just up and moved. And the place sold just like that. We didn't think it would. So we get here and we finally get us a place in Union, and I worked for a few years, and I broke my neck and I had to retire. And all of a sudden, around 2000 or so, you got to move, you know. And I told Debbie, I said, we're going to move back to Indiana. So all this time, I'm having faith in God and stuff. Well, the house sold within a month. You know, it was gone. So we get back to Indiana and we do everything. When I got back to Indiana, I wasn't going to church here when I lived here first. And I went back and started going to church where I was saved and where we got married. But I promised God that I'd read this book from front to back and do every word. And I kept my promise to God. And that don't mean I remembered it. But I did. I think my best chapters was in Numbers. You know, you really had to. So I read it all, and I started going back to church regularly and everything. And the only regret I have is that church we didn't have Wednesday night church, and we didn't do Sunday night church. That I had enough guts to stood up at that time and said, I want to do something like I'm doing tonight. And I appreciate y'all for asking me. Like I'm doing tonight to help that church more than what I did. But all of a sudden, about 10 years later again, it says, you're moving back to Ohio. And I thought, wow, house sold within a month. We had to get up and go. So we went to New Parish down here. And I thought, yeah. And while all them years I lived here, we drove past Lewisburg, going back to Indiana to visit relatives. And I said, I would never live in that little town. I'm not living in that little town. And son of a gun, God put me over here and my wife and everything. So just do what God says you're to do and don't ask questions, and I think that's why I feel the way I do. And I love this church is my church. We moved our numbers. I never moved our letters. I mean, in every place we ever went, I never moved my letters till we came here. And I love you all, and I appreciate your giving me strength, and God's been with me all the way. We know that. We know that God has put us here where I said I'd never live. So, and I'm sorry, that's all I've got, and I hope, and I feel like a little bit like Moses and them, because they told me, he was telling me where I was going to go, but I was always denying, I'm not going where you tell me to go, So I'm here, and you're stuck with me, so.
It's just like being a missionary. Never tell God, I won't go there. Because guess what? That's exactly where God will send you, where he said don't send you. And when he said you'd never
I know.
in a place like Lewisburg, where does God stick?
He's been after me for years, I guess. So, Rick, would you like to dismiss us for the?
Okay, so for Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity, Father, for Mark to share with us this, Father, the lesson that he's shared with us